This started in about 2016, which was, of course, a little before our time as an organization. The town commissioners were interested in expanding the town hall or renovating or building a new one. The same thing with the police department. The police department has serious issues. They don't meet state regulations and requirements, so therefore that is another issue, and we feel if you're going to be considering a new town office, then obviously the other expense will be a police station, so that should also be part of the equation, the immediate equation, rather than just doing them separately. So, Crosby and Associates, an Eastern Shore architect design consulting firm, did two studies on the town office and on the police station. We have those documents, December 2016. The Crosby recommended that the town office be a new building be constructed. The police station, the same. The best thing is to build a new one, about 5,000 square feet. There was a place in town, a location in town, where we could build a dual building, the two of them together. Combining the two buildings, you would have a lot of common space, so you could reduce the footprint substantially. For example, there could be a common vestibule and lobby, common meeting room, common public toilets, even some common storage space. So we feel that we could probably take 1,000 to 1,500 square feet off a dual building. It would be reduced by that amount. Instead, and I'll go into this again, the town opted to build them separately because they think there's no lot big enough. But we estimate a dual building would probably cost $1 million to $1.5 million less than two separate two-story buildings. And it seems like the commissioners seem reluctant to do that study and again come out hopefully with a reasonable result, a cost-effective result. When the result came in that there was no large enough lot, this ad hoc committee that we referred to, they determined that there was no lot in town that was large enough to support construction of two buildings, two one-story joint buildings. At the time, we weren't sure it was buildable, in quotes. The reason being that there were some sewer lines. There's a small sewer pumping station on that lot, on the corner of the lot, plus there were at least a couple of active sewer lines. So there was some question as to whether it was buildable. So the town administration was asked to look into whether it was feasible or not to build on. The Talbot County engineer came in a few weeks later to say that he thought there were two sewer lines on the property. They could be relocated at county expense. Now, what happened is that Commissioner Bowes, one of our 5 commissioners, pushed for a town vote on where we should locate the town office a couple of weeks before that became known. And therefore, the town commissioners at that point voted for the Fremont lot, where we are going to build a 2-story building on a lot that we consider is too small and inadequate, is not adequate for the purpose. After the vote we feel was pushed a bit by Commissioner Bowes because he didn't want the answer to that. He preferred to have a vote with incomplete, from our perspective, incomplete information. So they chose Fremont Street as the site for the town office. After it was determined, well, when it was determined we needed a couple of sites for the buildings, the town went out and bought a Boundary Lane site for the town office. They paid $200,000 for it, and they paid $39,000 to raise the building that was on the site. Later, and I'm not sure, others may know more about why, they decided they were not going to build the town office there. Then they went to the Fremont Street and paid another $159,000 for that second lot. They put another several tens of thousands of dollars into studies of the lot, feasibility, etc. So at last count, they had spent $411,000 of town money without, as Commissioner Bose said in his interview, putting a spade in the dirt. So the town has spent $411,000 to date, and we consider most of it wasted. That's when the St. Michael's Action Committee was formed, because we, as individuals, would attend meetings. We would ask for a feasibility study, and for of the Mill Street property. We would argue that it seemed to make economic sense to us to have a joint, more cost-effective, smaller building on that site. And the commissioners, two of the commissioners, refused to consider that feasibility study. There were at least two votes that were voted down by two commissioners, one of them being Commissioner Bose, the other being Commissioner Wyndham. And it was 2-2 because the fifth commissioner, Commissioner Gorman, was an employee of the museum and therefore could not vote. So basically, two commissioners were vetoing what we considered to be a very quick, inexpensive analysis of the feasibility of using Mill Street. And we put in a request, again, a Freedom of Information Act request to the town for all of the communications between the Maritime Museum and, well, if I backtrack, Maritime Museum and the town. And we found that that went back to 2016 when this original letter of intent was signed secretly between the museum and the town. The museum then would purchase the lot, the Mill Street lot. The Mill Street lot abuts their parking lot, and the museum is, I think, about 12 acres already. It's a fairly large institution. They would like to expand, and the only available lot now, there are two. There are the Crab Claw Restaurant, which of course is in operation. That's one lot, and the other lot would be the Mill Street lot adjacent to their parking lot. You can debate whether the museum should acquire that lot. We and many around us argue it's the largest lot, public lot available still in St. Michael's. The town should keep it over at least the next couple of years until these two buildings are constructed, until maybe there's a discussion about making it a park or doing other things with it, because once it's gone, it's gone. People would argue the museum already is large, and does it need another acre? And in this case, because we have a need for we consider a joint building on one lot, and this is the only one available, we would like the feasibility study to be completed. And quite frankly, if we're going to save $1 million to $1.5 million in taxpayer money, why give a lot to the museum? It's 1.2 acres, And the museum again offered that they would give us a very small sliver of land to add 14 parking spaces to St. Michael's public parking lot. They would pay the town $135,000 and they would acquire the 1.2 acres. Under pressure from us, and because if you put something on surplus, it has to be appraised. One appraisal was the lot probably, if it were commercial or residential, and that's only a zoning change, which is very easy to do, it would be worth around $1 million. Through the Public Information Act, we also learned, of course, of these communications between Commissioner Bose and the museum. And as was already mentioned, Commissioner Bose was offered, he is the regional manager for Curtis Stokes, a yacht brokerage firm with an office in St. Michael's, and he was offered a contract with the museum to sell their donated boats. And while he claimed he did not directly get fees from the sale of these boats, he still is a regional manager. There are overhead costs involved. The museum also features Curtis Stokes' emblem on their website. There are a lot of benefits to Curtis Stokes from this relationship. Well, these are separate transactions, but they coincidentally took place very close to each other. If there is no direct conflict of interest, we feel there is at least an apparent conflict of interest, and that should be considered. We took our information that we had to the St. Michael's Ethics Commission, and we presented a case, our case to them regarding what we considered Commissioner Bose's conflict of interest. They rejected our complaint. And we feel they did not give us due process. The reasons are, they interviewed Commissioner Bose and got his side of the story and used his information. They received our written information, and then they made a decision. We were never asked to attend the meeting. One of the three commissioners that signed the agreement or signed the agreement is a primary caterer to the museum. Gene Weissman, who is mentioned, town manager, who is mentioned in our complaint as one of the communicants, she is on several of these emails. She attended the Ethics Commission meeting. We never saw the minutes from that meeting, and we were never asked to come and participate in the meeting. So we feel we were not given due process. So we took our complaint to the Talbot County Court, and we now have a court case in process. And they will, I think, make their determination on November 4th about whether they will send our complaint back to the Ethics Commission and ask them to reconsider. A couple of times in the months after we submitted this complaint to the county court, we've offered the Ethics Commission and the town administration, we've offered to negotiate a result, an agreement, something we could agree to, and save us both, on both sides, save us court costs. This vote was taken a couple of years ago based on incomplete information. We did not know at that point, or the commissioners did not know at that point, that Mill Street was buildable. And that is a critical piece of information that has come to light after the vote. We have asked twice for a feasibility study, and that has been rejected. And other things have come to light through our public information search as well. Therefore, we feel two things. Number one, there is much more information available now that a reasonable person would use to reconsider a decision they made a couple of years ago. And number two, another reason for our existence is this issue of open, transparent town government. All the things that we unearthed through our Public Information Act, none of that, we feel, should have been secret or confidential. And therefore, we advocate for a more open town government